Alright, so this is our final video and we're going to look at a different approach to distorting the stripe layer. As you can see, the stripe layer is a bit more faithful to my original print in that it's kind of warping and undulating in a random kind of way, which is I think what we want to achieve, and I think we can do something like that using a combination of two different effects and a bit of file setup. So let's have a look at that. Back in After Effects, I've just got rid of the warp and we're back to our stripes like so. I want to create a bump map, and you might have done that before in Photoshop. A bump map is like a grayscale image that you use to distort another image. It's a very useful technique, so let's look at implementing that. Firstly, let's make the bump map. So we're going to go to Composition, we're going to go to Layer, New, and we're going to create a new solid. And we'll call this bump. Doesn't matter what color it is. And we're going to apply an effect that's called Fractal Noise in the Noise and Grain section. There's a few different fractal options, but the Fractal Noise is the one that we want. And it creates this kind of cloudy stuff, which has a whole range of uses, but we're going to use the black and white information here for our bump map. Now I want it less grainy and less granular, so I'm going to change some of these parameters here. I'm going to increase the contrast, increase the brightness just a little bit. We're going to leave the fractal type as is, but explore the different fractal types because they're really good for creating different kinds of backgrounds. I'm going to drop the complexity right down to actually go to 0, yep. And maybe the contrast is a bit higher there. The transform, I want to make this, the scale of this a lot bigger, so I'm going to scrub this value up towards the 500, and that's looking good. Coming down to the evolution options, if I scroll this wheel here, it creates this kind of undulating animation, which is perfect for what we want. We want to create this kind of ripple effect. So we can keyframe this option here, this evolution option. So I'll dig down and find it in the effects here, scrolling down, got a lot of values here, put one keyframe there and one keyframe at the end, and I'll add one evolution or one rotation of evolution. Okay, another thing that we can do here is we can check the cycle evolution option so that it will loop, and you can see it playing now, and it kind of goes back to the same pixels over and over, which is really good. Exactly what we want. Now I'll just twirl all of that back up. Now one thing with a bump map is that the layer that we use can't have any effects actually applied to it, or it won't see those effects. So I'm going to pre-comp this layer. Right click and pre-compose, and I'll call this my bump pre-comp and go OK. Didn't mean to open it. In fact, actually shouldn't have done that. So just go back to your finished animation here, undo, created a undo, and do that pre-comp again. Sorry about that. I wanted to move, this is a different option, I want to move all the attributes into that composition. So the animation of that layer goes into the pre-comp. That might be a little confusing, I'm sorry about that, but that's what we need to do. Bump, pre-comp, go OK. Didn't need to open it, but now we've got our effects inside this comp. So we'll go back to our finished animation. You can see that it's a pre-comp now, and we've got that bump map ready to go. Now we need to apply that to this shape layer, and I'm going to do that with a displacement map. So I'm going to look for displace, and under distort we've got the displacement map option. I'm going to drag that, pop that onto my stripes. You can see it's gone a bit weird, but that's because I've got it in here, I've got to apply a layer as the displacement map layer. So instead of the current layer, which is stripes, I'm going to switch it to bump pre-comp, and that's going to start changing things in a different kind of way. And you can see when I move it, it's kind of slightly undulating, but it's only shifting the pixels horizontally and vertically a value of 5 pixels. So I can scroll that out and affect that in a much kind of deeper kind of way, like so. I'm not going to wrap the pixels. I'll keep that as is, and I think that's kind of much more like the original outcome that I had. And now it's just up to me to decide how I want to combine these things together. So I'm just creating, changing these elements just a little bit and positioning them. Maybe I'll put the stripes or the circle above those two elements. And this is starting to look, with a little bit more kind of tweaking, positional tweaking, kind of like what I intended initially. So what we've created here is a reflection of some analog art using a few basic vectors that we've created in Illustrator, but more importantly and kind of more significantly, we've used effects from the effects library in After Effects to create a good deal of the kind of animation and movement in this outcome. So let me see some incorporation of effects into your animations in the future.